So let's talk about food, taste, and the fat loss process, and just cut through these lies that keep getting put out on Instagram, on Facebook, and in general circles around getting in shape. So this comes from, got a question on my last video, my boy Darian. He said he wanted to get in shape, but he didn't want to give up the tasty foods that he likes. And this is a very common, problem, common thought, and it's stopping so many people get in shape because of this myth that's out there. So where does it come from, this myth? Well, it comes from the food police, the clean eating brigade, just shed loads of fake fitness professionals who are painting this picture that they eat 100% perfectly, that they eat only clean foods, that you can't have any nice tasting foods in it, or you have to be obsessed with loving avocados, or they give this fake thing. And I've worked with so many people in this food police, the clean eating brigade, and I'm telling you, it's lies. For starters, if they're working with me, there's a good chance they were trying to get in shape, so something's gone wrong somewhere. And they normally ignore stuff. So they'll go after one food group. Most of them that I've worked with are then drinking a bottle of wine at night, but they don't count that so much, or it doesn't, let's just not discuss that issue. But it's the same thing, because then next day I'll have Jane working with me who's crying in the session because she had a chocolate bar. It annoys me because it's a fake myth. One, you don't need to eat this way to get in shape. But two, why are you crying about eating a chocolate bar? Come on. You haven't murdered somebody. It's not that bad. Relax. And this is what I try and get across to my clients. And not just my clients, it comes in other things like the question I got. It stops so many people even starting. And as I say, we'll get to the bottom of what to do with taste in a minute. But don't get caught up in reading or listening to all these things saying that you have to give up all these nice tasting foods to get in shape, or that you even need to go clean. And I'll explain that in just a minute. The fake fitness professionals, they're a big trouble in this too. So many of them just give this purported thing that they never go wrong. And if you know them, if you meet them, if you see them, it's an absolute lie. I remember this one person, they posted a picture of them eating tuna salad saying whatever, low carb life, blah, blah, blah. Saw them in the gym, outside the gym. They were honestly eating a McDonald's 2 hours later. And I'm like, oh, I was so tempted to comment, but I didn't do that. So the point being is people are fake, and it gives you a misimpression. That's why, people lie all the time. But the point is, it gives you a fake impression and stops you getting results or going forwards. So this is what I want to cut through. So how do we address the taste issue? So you want to get in shape, yes. You don't want to give up your favorite foods. Understandable too. First of all, you've got to ask yourself a question. And this is where some of the areas of problems are happening for. What are you actually trying to achieve? Because there's three different areas going on in this sort of conversation. One, am I trying to lose body fat? Well, if your goal is to get in shape, probably is true. Am I trying to improve my health? Am I also trying to address my food and eating behaviors? Now, those three are all, closely related, but they're actually three separate things. My experience, every single person out there can address each one of those. Hardly any of you, me included, can do all three of those at the same time. Almost zero. Hardly any people can also even do two of those at the same time to a strict form. And this is totally magnified if you're out there on your own working, not working with a fitness professional, so forth, nutritionist, because that's why you go to professionals, because it raises your behavior, gives you the support. So if you're out there on your own and you're trying to put a plan in place to optimize fat loss, optimize your health, and try and have better eating relationship with food and behaviors around food, it's game over. You're just not going to be able to do it. What you should be doing is think, what is the most important right now? And let's go after that. And for most people, initially especially, it's going to be losing body fat. And then it doesn't mean you're not going to lose body fat and also improve some of the areas. But when you really go after each one of those areas, you just can't do it. I've, over the years helped so many total lost causes, their words, not mine, transformations you wouldn't believe looking at their behaviors to where it's come about. But I've never done it by putting all three of those things on them on day one. No chance. And it's an important one. So if your main goal right now is just to lose fat, then that's great. If it's to get healthy, if it's to change your eating behaviors, well, this video is more about losing body fat. I'll talk about those in another one. So if it's just to lose body fat, the question then is, how much of my food can be from bad foods for me to still get results? Now, this links into another area, a misbelief of what causes fat loss. You know, the ultimate underlying mechanism of fat loss is you've consumed less food than you've expended, less energy than you've expended over, say, a 7-day period. There's some little remits to it, but there's not much. That is mostly it. If you do that through all good foods, great. It'll really help your health. If you do it through all bad foods, great. You'll still lose body fat. And the question for us normally isn't like, can I eat in McDonald's 4 times a day and still lose body fat? It's actually, do I really have to give up every single nice bit of food that I like across a week? And when people just chill the heck out a little bit and stop copying these fake people who aren't doing what they say they're doing, it actually becomes a lot more manageable and a lot easier for you to achieve these things. So it's an important element. Are you okay with losing body fat with some of the foods being some awful sources? Now, the reality is I'm very good at dieting. I can almost guarantee, I don't know you, but I'm probably better than you at losing body fat. But I am totally okay with having a percentage, and sometimes quite a big percentage of my foods on some days from bad foods. You know what I'm saying? So my first bodybuilding show, if you've seen the photos for that, when I'm at whatever, 0% body fat, obviously not literally, you know, the last couple of weeks, I was having one of those kids' chocolate bars probably every day, which was 125 calories. That's about 10%, 5 to 10% of my calorie intake of the day, and that got me through it. Some days when I was going to quit, maybe I would come back at a crisps with it, and that would be maybe up to 25% of my calories for those. But does that matter in the photos? No. The end result was I got to the photos. You know, did it affect my health? No. You know, I was mashing up my health by eating that low to get that lean anyway. So you've got to be okay with eating and okay with making mistakes. And if that means 50% of your calorie intake, you know, for fat loss came from bad sources, I'd be fine with that. If it's 100%, I'd be fine with that, because you've still managed to somehow get through the day, somehow lost body fat. Great on you. Obviously, you need to know what your calorie number is. You don't necessarily need to count calories for this, but this whole conversation for a body fat loss is that if you get a certain calorie intake with a certain movement, you will get predictable results. If you don't believe that, check out my blog where I ate just chocolate to lose body fat, where I ate just McDonald's to lose body fat. If you're rigid with your numbers and know your numbers, you can get crazy results. So once you're okay with having some bad foods, you should already be more relaxed. Then the next issue with taste is to go back and review your meals. How tasty is your average meal in your plan? I reckon 5 out of 10 people, their day one plan guarantees failure, because half their meals are just rubbish. It's 4 out of 10 taste, 5 out of 10 taste. As a rule of thumb for my clients, minimum I'll accept is 7 out of 10 in taste, their rating of a meal, not mine. Ideally, I'd like to see 8 out of 10 for them to be able to stick to that plan ongoing. And obviously that needs to be, you know, a pizza might be 9 out of 10, but it's unlikely if I'm having a 2,000 calorie pizza, that's going to fall within my calorie needs unless I'm a big bloke and moving shed loads. So taste of your meals is important. Rate your meals, ask your meals. And how do you increase the taste? Pick more of the foods you like. So if you find chicken breasts really boring and not tasty, stop eating it. Pick something else. Likewise, reduce any foods that you're putting in there for health that actually put you off the meal. So a lot of people add in, let's add in this lettuce, let's add in this cucumber, and it actually puts you off your meal. It's 3 out of 10, it's 4 out of 10. Just get rid of it. You know, there's no need, there's no justification for the cucumber there. You might be doing it for health. We've talked about that. Not so necessary at this stage. When you're doing your health plan, it's a different conversation. That's another way. Other ways to add in taste. How do I add in taste? There's different things you can add for taste. Do I add a little bit of hummus? Do I add some sea salt? Do I add vinegar? Do I add something that gives taste, but ideally doesn't massively change the quantity of the meal? You know, I could add, 100 grams of cheese. Well, that's going to add 400 calories to the meal. You've massively changed it. But I could sprinkle a gratering of 25 grams of cheese and actually make the taste jump up by a unit or two. This is how you add taste to the things. And then the final thing you can do to add more taste to your overall day is actually add in things like specific treats. As I talked on earlier, the chocolate bar, does that help things? Yes, it does help things. If that keeps me in the game by having that 125 calorie chocolate bar, well, that's the difference between me getting in the game and getting results and not. And it's likewise for yourself. Obviously, when you're picking treats, you don't want to eat, a 700 calorie treat, because that's probably 50% of your day's calorie or 30%. It's not it's too big, you know. So you need something, and this is down to your own personal psychology. So I don't know, you know, I can't tell you this, but this game is a negotiation of you versus your food. So how do you work out what you will do or not? You have to see if you can negotiate in the moment with yourself. And this is actually a behavioral skill, to see and be able to adapt to outwit yourself in the moment. It's something I coach all my clients on, and that's a skill that if you develop it, it is a bit of a game changer. So, you know, what can you get yourself to eat to stay in the game? For some people, and this is what I've seen with behavior, some people have a glass of wine, and that's one of, you know, 4 nights a week with a glass of wine has kept them in the game. I've seen other people do the same behavior and it's ruined it for them because they always have more than that. So you've got to check how it fits in to the overall picture. Then the very final thing about the taste to be aware of is, how does your taste distribute across a week? Because it's not the same. Even in a daily sense, most people can have a much blander breakfast and to some degree lunch than perhaps dinner, or vice versa. Some people don't care for dinner much and they can just have a simple soup and leave it at that, but they have quite a big lunch. It's a bit cultural, it's a bit down to your own behavior patterns. But the idea is, if in the meals where you can have a very simple meal and you're not that craving for foods and tastes and whatever, then you can obviously back off in that area, save a bit of food, so you can then redistribute it later on in the day. And the same across the week. Most people are pretty happy Monday to Thursday being pretty good. You can normally get good results of 5 days a week fat loss nutrition. So, you know, you need to get Friday or Sunday in place, and that means you've got 5 days done. Then the other 2, you don't need to be quite so strict on form in that sense. So you can add more taste in to keep you to the game, because adherence is so important. If you're not going to stick to this long term, say you need to do 7 weeks of fat loss to get to your goal, your plan has to be, you have to be able to follow your plan for 7 weeks if you want to get it consecutively, which is quite hard, or you have to be able to follow it for, say, 4 weeks, take a break, another 4 weeks, job done. So you've got to look at this overall picture, which is why this whole fake taste, not factoring taste, is just a myth. It's a lie. The people who promote it are lying because they don't even do it themselves. You know, to that degree, that bear in mind, there are a few people, you know, small percentage of people who genuinely, you know, as the clean way, as is promoted, but that's probably not you, you know. And can you get there? Definitely you can get there, but the actual mechanism to get there is not the same as following a diet plan. That doesn't really get you there. It's a different method. You would do it more under a health protocol, you do it more under behavior change protocols, at which point you're not under eating. You know, the moment you under eat, as in I'm losing body fat, expending more energy, so I'm losing body fat, whichever way you look at it, your desire for taste increases. And the more fat you lose, the faster you lose body fat, the more you want taste in your diet. And if you've got no allowance for it, it's just a bigger, tougher, more draining fight. Week by week, it begins to get more grinding, and eventually you quit. And, you know, that's why people struggle to keep the results and get to the results to the end. So that's the main issues on taste. There's always more things I can throw on to, but for now, that is a good one. So go away, increase the taste in your plans, and just get going and get some results.